broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
This theme song's so good.
Welcome, everybody, to the League After Show here on AFTERBUZZ TV. We are recapping this episode called The Last Temptation of Andre. So you know this is going to be a fun one about Andre. Andre
Yes.
Nozick. I am George Hermoza. I am joined by Phil Svitek.
Yes, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. No Steve Kaufman tonight.
No Steve Kaufman. No Mr. Female, because those were fun days.
George scared all the girls away.
Apparently, last season I had two drunk girls, to be honest with you. They're gone. It started off with Christina Kaplan, and then Danica Kennedy. They're gone. So something I'm doing apparently, but whatever.
Hopefully you're not pulling a Kevin.
Probably. It wouldn't surprise me. I
don't think we can joke about that actually though.
Yeah, I think we're too little, too PC, but of course, this episode I did like. I liked a lot better than last week. I know last week we kind of agreed we all agreed that it wasn't one of their best episodes, but obviously Ruxin's back, so he definitely added a little bit flair and spice and pizzazz to this episode, The Last Temptation of Andre. Mm-hmm. They kind of answered one of my questions too, because I remember in episode 1 of this season, they referred to the 8th member of the team or of the league as, they're going to decide everything from a coin. And I remember thinking to myself, we haven't heard much about the coin until now, where they kind of referenced in the beginning of the episode where the coin's pretty much beating. They didn't say what place it's in, I guess, but beating a lot of people just based on a flip of a coin. So Pete tries to implement this ideology, I guess you can say, by flipping of a coin.
Yeah, absolutely, and it seems to be working out for him. We kind of skipped over how. The Kevin versus Kevin storyline.
Which one?
The two Kevins.
Oh yeah, from
Trophy
last week.
Kevins,
Yeah, Trophy Kevin.
And so we kind of skipped over that, and now we're back to just being friends.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, early on too, it kind of worked out for Pete too, because you remember he decided to trade based on the flip of a coin, and it turns out the person that he traded got injured. So he's like, well, now I'm going to probably start living my life through the ideology of a flipping of a coin, which for me personally, it never really worked out good. I'm more of a rock, paper, scissors kind of person. Mm-hmm. I kind of base my decisions off of that. I mean, nothing ever really beats rock, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but how do you do it if it has to be you?
What do you mean? Like
when you have a decision, like,
that's
should I go drinking tonight with my friends or should I stay home? Who do you rock, paper, scissors shoot with?
I go drinking. There's no question about that one. What is there to decide, to be honest with you? Look, come on, let's be real.
George shows up, and he's in West Hollywood
And I'm the only one.
That's right.
And I'm the only one. But speaking of Andre, we were talking about Andre in the beginning, where he mentioned early on in the episode where the parking in his place kind of a little getting fixed up. I guess you can say his exact words were his undercarriage is getting abused. And so they wanted... And his tailpipe as well. Yeah. And of course, typical Andre, actually talking about that, but mentioning it in kind of homosexual ways, I guess you can say. Mm-hmm. And of course, I like Taco at the end just kind of saying like, yeah, pretty much, yeah, I forgot what he said, but something in terms of like actually going there as opposed to everyone else, they just keep talking about the metaphors.
Yeah, because Taco's not one for sugarcoating.
Exactly. But Andre ends up finding a parking spot in front of a Korean church.
Yeah, are you familiar with Korean churches?
I've never been to a Korean church. Have you been to a Korean church?
I've only seen them in movies, especially, I forget which, 21 Jump Street or 22 Jump Street.
Yeah.
And then now this. So my frame of reference is not too deep.
I wonder how accurate that is, too. I mean, they have to base it on some form of real life situation. I'm sure somebody from that show, one of the writers, had to have done research. It does look like fun, though.
I mean, people get upset at stereotypes in many ways, but I also say, like, they're stereotype for a reason. That doesn't mean, like, 100% of the time it's true, but there's a reason.
Yeah, so Andre ends up joining, I guess you can say, the congregation, and he runs into a old, I guess, familiar face from previous episode of the league, Lane.
That's right.
So a lot of people remember
also
Lane.
In Silicon Valley. Guy's hilarious.
I think somebody mentioned that he was. I mean, I don't watch Silicon Valley, but I do know that somebody was like, "Oh, that's the guy from Silicon Valley." How was that show?
That show's phenomenal too.
Is there an AFTERBUZZ for that show? Of course, there
darn
is.
right.
Absolutely.
What's great is that they don't cross over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's in the winter. This is in the fall, so we're good.
Oh, that's brilliant. So we see Lane, and of course, he's apparently part of the Korean congregation as well, which is again also weird. I mean, obviously, we know Andre's intentions. But I guess he mentioned that Korean Jesus is more forgiving than regular Jesus. I don't know.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Jesus.
Those are his words, not mine. I don't know.
I mean, the whole point of Jesus is that he died for your sins. So that to me is the ultimate forgiveness.
I agree.
Unless there's other people dying for your sins in a sacrilegious manner. I think that's the ultimate sacrifice.
I do like when in the scene where they were at the church and they were both Andre and Lane were just kind of just arms up. I mean, I think even Lane mentioned that whenever he needs to sing along and doesn't know the words, he just hums "True Colors" by Cyndi Lauper, which one of my personal favorite Cyndi Lauper songs.
Yeah, so try it. Do it up. There you go.
Come on, everybody out there. Hashtag Cyndi Lauper, True Colors. No,
okay.
Is it just me?
No.
Is it just me that bumps to Cyndi Lauper's greatest hits on the way home?
No, we're with you.
All right, Cyndi Lauper. Shout out WrestleMania 1. She was there. Shout out to my wrestling fans. So we'll kind of end. We'll kind of go back to that storyline because it kind of referenced it toward the end of. Obviously, no stranger to the league is a lot of these storylines end up intermixing with each other. So you mentioned it earlier about Kevin.
Yes.
So Kevin apparently likes to have sex with his wife while she's asleep. Now, normally might sound a little disturbing, but I guess they're married, so it's okay. Is that was Kevin's excuse? So I'm kind of curious what other people think.
Well, I think in general,
this is the part where a woman would be perfect to ask, to be honest with you. But apparently, I scare them all away.
Yeah. So, and this is where a terrible joke. But here's the thing. I mean, I feel like in other instances, people do it to wake a person up. And at a certain point, I don't know, maybe you should just give up. Or, hey, I don't know, if you're like...
I mean, I've personally never done it. I mean, honestly, but if I were to do it, it would be with my significant other or / wife. Future significant other or / wife. I know we were talking about earlier before we started the show. But, I mean, apparently she wasn't even asleep, though.
See, you know what? I'm much more of a morning guy, so like I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like, oh, hey. And then you just get thoughts.
I'm with you.
And then eventually but the whole idea is like at any sudden movement of like you just kind of shifting over, they wake up and they're like, what are you doing?
But yeah, apparently Jenny wasn't asleep, but Kevin got a little disturbed because he's thinking, I'm doing whatever he's doing and she doesn't wake up. I mean, she's awake, but she doesn't like open her eyes. She just lays there. So it's kind of like
moaning.
She's apparently moaning. But Kevin kind of looks at it as like, is she bored? I need to spice it up. And Taco kind of mentioned an incest threesome, which was kind of a little disturbing to hear.
Well, he said they would only kiss.
Oh yeah, only kiss.
I mean,
but apparently, going back a little bit, Taco apparently is erect when he sleeps because he said that happens to him all the time. I mean, I guess it keeps him from falling over. That's what he says. I don't know.
That's a funny line. I mean, here's the morning wood and things like that, so you can be erect while you sleep.
But he says it's the whole night, so wonder what he dreams about because I'm sure it must be good. Apparently. But yes, Kevin, a little bored. I mean, implying that Jenny's a little bored. So apparently Taco buys a used sex swing from Craigslist. And of course, automatically, Kevin saying no because obviously he did mention that it was used, and pretty much it as far as it goes. I mean, they kind of talked about it when the whole Kevin versus Ruxin in the courtroom as well. So they kind of go back to it.
I mean, here's the thing. What's funny, and the fact that they still kind of utilize this part of it is that, for how many seasons, where Jenny's been out of Kevin's league, pun not intended, and, that she is bored, and last week, she's Trophy Jenny. So it's like, if you're Kevin, no matter what, you have these anxieties and these worries, and I feel like they could always play a little bit more to it if they wanted to.
Especially with Kevin's character.
Yeah, because he's just so neurotic.
Exactly.
Especially, going back to the Yabagoya episode.
Oh, God. By the way, I can never have Yoshinoya Beef Bowl and ever again ever since I saw that episode. Because I'm sure that's what the play is on Yoshinoya. I could be wrong. I used to love Yoshinoya Beef Bowl in high school. It was right next to my high school. It was amazing.
But now no more.
But now no more. Thank you, the league. But we kind of mentioned again, Ruxin versus Kevin as far as, first off, in the courtroom, because Ruxin is representing this slumlord, and of course Kevin's prosecuting him. So they kind of talked about it in it, but of course they kind of talked about also beating the coin, apparently, because coin keeps eating everyone. So they try to team up on them, and Ruxin, of course, who traded for Marcus Mariota, got hurt, so now he needs a quarterback. Kevin apparently has Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers, so they kind of start the magical C word, collude, which is kind of a word that gets thrown around a lot in this show. And anybody who knows fantasy football knows about collusion.
I mean, to me, that's just, I don't know. It's no different than Survivor or any of those shows. It's just strategy.
I mean, as an avid fantasy footballer, I guess you can say, I think there's nothing wrong with colluding. All's fair in love and fantasy football.
Because at the end of the day, no matter what happens, someone's going to vie for that top spot.
Exactly.
And so, regardless of, it just is.
I mean, if I can trade rape somebody, then why am I not going to do so? Yeah. If I can make somebody the victim, then, I end up winning, and that's all that matters to me, to be honest with you.
There you go. That's what fantasy football is.
It is what it's all about. So, yeah, they collude with each other as far as Ruxin getting one of the quarterbacks because he's got the priority in the waiver wire. But in the meantime, again, they're kind of going back and forth with it, and the judge finds out about this collusion.
Christopher McDonald, he's a nice guy.
I was trying to think of his name. I just called him Shooter McGavin. Because the first thing I saw was like, oh, look, it's Shooter McGavin. Anybody who watches Happy Gilmore knows exactly what I meant by Shooter McGavin. Obviously, you chuckled, so you know as well.
I know Shooter.
I know he's in other stuff, but obviously I remember him from Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, that role will forever live on with him.
As it should.
He was in Boardwalk Empire. He was in so many different things.
But Happy Gilmore. Shooter McGavin. So I did like the interplay with Christopher McDonald, Ruxin, and Kevin, as far as, first they're accusing them of colluding in the courtroom, but no, it turns out they're colluding in fantasy football, which is still a big no-no to him. If you collude in the fantasy football, who's to say you're not going to collude eventually in the courtroom? Which I disagree with, but that's why I'm not on the show. But I did like the judge, making Kevin and Ruxin. This is my only problem. Kevin and Ruxin promised to not collude in fantasy football, and Ruxin wouldn't just flat out say, "Oh, I promise not to collude in the courtroom." Well, and promise not to collude, and just kind of fantasy football in the courtroom. Like, no. But my thing was like, Ruxin's a phenomenal liar. Like, why wouldn't he just say he's not going to do it and then not do it?
Because you can't do that with the judge.
Well, I mean, that's true. I mean, is he under oath in that specific situation?
I mean, it's one of those things that I guess that, I mean, this goes into his professional life, his livelihood. No livelihood, no fantasy football.
That's true. That's very true. I kind of like when he was like, I promise that I won't, in fantasy football, I won't collude, won't flat out say collude.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that. And then he kind of make fun of this Roe versus Wade Phillips. I thought that was kind of a weak name as well. I know in my league, and I'm kind of curious what everybody else's fantasy league names are, is we try to mix a football reference with either an 80s theme or the next year the 90s theme. So my first year, and it was, and I'll call me crazy, it was boom, boom, chicka, chicka.
Okay.
Okay.
But, okay, I get, yeah.
But I mean, the first year we didn't intermix football for whatever reason. But the next year, it was Revis and Butthead Do America. Obviously, Darrell Revis and Beavis and Butthead. And now this year, it's Bend It Like Beckham. Obviously, it can go both ways. So I try to be creative with it. Other people are more creative than me, obviously. One guy was 1.21 JJ Watts, which I thought was my favorite. So kudos to my friend Jaime who thought of that name. But yeah, so going on to what they were talking about in the courtroom. Now, Ruxin and Kevin end up not colluding because of Kevin's promise to the judge, and Ruxin is not happy about that. And he even brings up Kevin's sleep capade in the courtroom.
Yeah, and this is just where it all goes to hell.
I mean, I dug it. I don't know about you, but I dug it. I kind of like them bringing up their personal lives in a non-personal situation.
I mean, here's the thing. You know, I enjoyed this scene a lot, and I thought it was very funny. Mm-hmm. But what was missing was the element of cringing, because the way they've done it, and perhaps it was because we were already exposed to the judge, mm-hmm. right, Christopher McDonald, but he's already kind of put up with their shenanigans and mm-hmm. accepted it. It would have been funny to see, you know, if there's that anxiety of how's the judge going to take this. Yeah. Because if this was in a normal courtroom, they'd be arrested on the spot.
Probably, yeah.
So, you know, and that's where the real comedy of it all happens, where it's like, you know, it's too good to turn away type thing. And
we did have an NFL football player cameo of Golden Tate. Ruxin referenced early on in the episode about him slapping Golden Tate for, you know, I think end up beating Ruxin. So Taco brings Golden Tate. I'm sure he's a member of the EBDB. B&B or EBDB Prime, which obviously Taco references in every episode. And I like the fact that they were kind of like, as opposed to obviously the normal people being fantasy football players, they were like the work fantasy. So Golden Tate being on Ruxin. And
I like work fantasy.
Yeah, I liked it too. Like, oh, that's a point. Oh, cool, that's one of me. It's like, oh, I don't want to win like this, but I'll take it. So I kind of dug that thing too.
Who do you think won?
I think Ruxin won.
Yeah,
I'll give it to Ruxin just for the whole, like, you know, Kevin, like, you know, if he's gonna do this to his wife, who's to say he's not gonna do it to someone else? You know, he kind of went there. But I did like Kevin's kind of like, hey, by the way, Judge, he totally hated on your name. So I think the whole personal thing, as opposed to attacking the judge, was maybe one up for me.
Okay.
What do you think won?
Well, number one, I'm surprised that. I'm surprised how the sides were picked. I never would expect them to pick Ruxin. Yeah. Right? Especially Ruxin's the one who wants to punch him in the face. Pretty much. So yeah, that to me was kind of ironic and funny. But yeah, I think the fact that Kevin was more whiny, mm-hmm. I would give it to Ruxin too.
Yeah. So score one for Ruxin on Team Ruxin. And then we kind of wrap up the episode with Andre, of course, not showing up to a Korean church event and then promising to, I guess, patch up the roof. Mm-hmm. And then so when he sees a sex swing, he looks at it as a harness so he can, you know, be able to make sure he's safe and everything. So as he's fixing up the roof, he falls on the cross, which some may think it's sacrilegious, but of course on the league, practically nothing's off limits. No. You know, in walks the Korean priest. And then in walks Lane, which I thought was one of the best lines, is the whole like, hey, what are you doing with my old sex swing? Which obviously triggers, you know, now we know who used it. So based on Lane's previous episodes, we know that he pretty much will do anything.
Absolutely.
So good old the league. So overall, I did like this episode.
You know what? It wasn't the greatest one, but I would say it's above average.
I mean, you can definitely tell on episodes where when Ruxin isn't there, like there's just something missing. We've seen good episodes without Ruxin, but you can always tell there's just something lacking, something missing, and definitely you can tell Nick Kroll, who plays Ruxin, definitely fills whatever void is there.
Yeah, and I think the best episodes are when they all fire on all cylinders, when every single one of them is really involved. And so I say that, you know, Jenny, while she was referenced and she was, you know, part of a heavy storyline, she didn't have as many jokes in there either. And I think especially with her and Ruxin, there's just such a fastness to the comedy.
I agree.
That and again, it just depends what you like, because, you know, Taco's just so out there. Mm-hmm. Kevin, he's just the shy, nervous humor. Pete, I don't know how to describe his comedy in all of this. He's more of the straight man.
Yeah.
And then Andre's, you're
Andre's
laughing. You're just laughing at him, not with him.
Yeah.
So, so each of them, and Ruxin's that sarcasm, and Jenny, the fact that she's more of a guy than any of the guys.
Yeah, but still very feminine. Just kind of like the best of both worlds, if anything. She's got the beauty and also the wit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Great episode this week here on AfterBuzz TV on the After Show Network. We'll see you next week. Hopefully we have more females because we know that, no music. Okay. Either way,
you sound like Dr. Strangelove. 10 females to every male.
I was just trying to show you the music. Yeah, in a perfect world, absolutely. But I know we can find you always on, here on AfterBuzz. Where else can we find you at?
Public Morals is it's South Park. I do South Park, so if you love comedy, that join that train.
The thing I like about South Park and the League is they're both not afraid to go there.
Oh, they go.
They go there.
I mean, they Bill Cosby'd it tonight.
Oh, they did. They did have a Bill Cosby reference where, yeah, that was a good line too. Where they said, "Well, at least Bill Cosby bought them a drink." Just kind of like, "Oh, you guys went there," but it's still funny. I shouldn't be laughing. But either way,
if you don't like it, don't watch it.
Exactly. But you can also follow me on my road to 400 Twitter followers. I've been out there for like a few months, to be honest with you. So I feel like I need to knock on 400 doors sometime soon. So you can follow me at Hermoza, Gher. Can't even spell.
That's why people can't follow you.
That's right. Well, it should be right there. Ghermoza on Twitter, on Instagram. We can chit chat.
Yeah, follow him.
Please. See you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.